Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Well, hello and welcome to this episode of our program. This is Mike Saunders with Marketing Huddle, and today we're privileged to have with us the one and only Tom Hopkins, and I could spend about 4 or 5 minutes with his long bio of an intro, but let's just suffice it to say that Tom has been helping salespeople and executives achieve success for more than 4 decades, and the best part is his advice never grows old. So, Tom, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you, Mike. Good to be with you and your listeners.
Yeah, and it kind of is interesting when we think about certain things that never grow old, because you think about technology and how, one day a fax machine was such a breakthrough and we could do things with that, and now it's not so much. So sales and sales training and sales mindset tends to just it's just always a staple. I would like to ask you, what trends are you seeing today in the marketplace in the world of sales?
Well, whenever I do a seminar, which I do about 35 a year, I always fly in a day early just to meet with some of the highest income earning salespeople that are out in the street making lots of money, and we have a whole beautiful lunch, and they tell me what's the latest, what's the trends, what's happening that's different, because I have to update my training so that people that are, like 25, 30 come to a seminar that I've been teaching for 40 years, but I've got to make it relevant, of course. And I think there's, the consumer today is so much more educated than they were in the past, meaning they have access to knowledge they didn't have years ago. The Internet, you can have a person walk into an automobile dealership looking for a car, and they will have more knowledge than many of the salespeople on the floor. Yeah. So that's one thing salespeople have to realize, is that the knowledge level of the average consumer in our country is so great that you have to be better than ever before to really do a great job in closing sales.
That's an interesting point, because that is, of course, true, but there's another flip side to that, which is, I would say that salespeople are clued in on that, and they want to use technology as well. And I would also say that sometimes that can get out of balance. So do you find that entrepreneurs and salespeople rely too much on technology and kind of use it as an excuse, kind of hide behind the computer or the smartphone, and you need to just get out there and grind it out and get it done?
Mike, you could not have hit it better, hit it right on the nail. That's what's happening in sales. Too many people in sales feel like if I use high technology, use my computer, my email, all my stuff, I don't need to talk to people, thus I don't have any rejection. Now, a lot of it's subconscious. They aren't saying it or doing it consciously, but many people are hiding behind technology and avoiding contacts, thus cutting down the possibility of rejection. But I have taught all of my life that the person at the end of the year that gets the most yeses and thus the most income handles more no's and is willing to put their ego on the line to handle rejection. So hiding behind technology and feeling like you're working when you're sitting at a computer, when you're really nothing more than looking for information, is something that's really hampered the field of sales today.
Yeah, that's not selling. Now I remember back in the day, and you've probably taught it as well. Do some research on your prospect, and when you're sitting in their office waiting for them to come in, look around, and I see they like golf, so let's talk about golf. I see they like sailing, well, I'll integrate that into the conversation. Well, these days, with a quick search and LinkedIn search, you can find those things out first, but that is research, not selling. So I would also throw this out along that same line. for the people that are willing to do kind of some of the old school, methods, like actually speaking to a human being on the phone, actually setting up a coffee and meeting with them, and maybe presenting your services in person, doing it the way that you should. Now, when you use that technology, you're a little bit more prepared. But here's what I wonder if you've seen in the marketplace too. There are so many people making that shift to technology only, or heavy technology, that for the ones that are doing more of the in-person and things like that, they stand out, because that prospect is used to the email, the text, the tweet, the whatever, and now here's this person on the other end of the line going, let's grab a coffee, and it's like, now that stands out.
Well, and of course, I've always taught, and I believe, that you have to sell the benefits for the person on the phone meeting you. In other words, I know if I called you, Mike, and said, listen, my name is Tom Hopkins. I know you're in business in our community, and I've studied your company, and it's very successful. I'm in business as well, and we're finding networking with companies in the city so beneficial, and I would love to treat you to a cup of coffee, maybe early before you go in, so that you won't waste any of your time, and we can visit, and maybe I can show you some ways that we could do a win-win. How does that sound to you?
Yeah, that just feels so different, because, like, for instance, to me, I love, I kind of view myself as like a wordsmith. You kind of, certain words just kind of stand out. The word visit, that just feels comfortable. It's kind of like, don't ask someone for a referral. What is a referral? Ask someone for an introduction. Hey, I work with so-and-so people that do such and such, and I help them. Do you have anyone that you can think of you could introduce me to? And now that person's mind is kind of going, introduction. But yeah, getting back to your example, boy, treat, that's kind of like a gift, and that's something I want. A cup of coffee, let's do that. Let's get together. I think that just is so different, and kind of goes along the same lines with those things that arrive in the mailbox, those letters. If it's a nice, well done letter, maybe a handwritten on the envelope, that stands out these days. So some of these sales techniques that people feel like the technology replaces, it's good to enhance, but not to replace.
I definitely agree. In fact, I feel many of the things we did many years ago are more prevalent and work better today because no one else is doing it.
Yep.
And I know that if I don't mean this braggadociously, Mike, but I believe if I got on an airplane, got a parachute, jumped out into a city I've never been, but I would be able to walk down the commercial streets and introduce myself as a person going into business, I could start building a network, and within 90 days, I'll guarantee you, I would have a profit center. Mm-hmm. And it's all contact. It's all what you say. And, of course, many of my people that have used my training over the last 40 years have called me a wordsmith, because it's not so much what you say, it's how you say it. And the words do create the positive or negative emotions. You're so right on. And the word visit, see, I've always used that. I never ask for an appointment. I'm going to be in your area, Mike, and gosh, we're working with companies like yours, some of your competitors. I'd love to visit with you for a few minutes, and I'll schedule time today or would tomorrow be better?
Yeah, I mean, and then that person doesn't feel like they're put on the spot, or, can I come in and meet with you in your office? And that person is thinking, when I hit the office floor, I am sprinting, and I barely have time. And so the other aspect of what you said, which I'm sure you have in some of your teaching and trainings, let's meet before you get your day going, so we don't feel like we're taking you away from accomplishing your daily goals.
Yeah, see, all these little nuances make the difference. I cannot tell you how many salespeople don't close appointments or visits because they don't know the psychology of making it a win for the other person and not taking them away from their existing situation, which many people are under such stress today that they can't take away and go out to a nice lunch, but they could meet for a quick cup of coffee earlier than a normal going to the office.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and you feel like it's kind of like how they say, don't check your emails the first thing in the morning because you'll just get buried into that sinkhole of follow-up and all that. So same kind of a difference there. If you know that when you hit your office floor, you are sprinting for the rest of the day, then get some of these things done first thing, and when you want to network with someone, apply that same concept. I just think that is so spectacular. And in fact, here's my next thought, because while you were describing that, it made me think of how can you make sure that meeting goes really, really well, because you made the initial approach and you use some of the great wording and you use some empathy, like I don't want to disrupt your day. I'm finishing up my next book. Actually, I filed for trademark status on the phrase authority selling, which is taking the concept of building some authority assets like, hey, I was recently interviewed on such and such a radio show. Hey, I recently was mentioned in the media. Hey, I just came out with my book. And here's my question for you. If that person says, yes, I would love to visit with you and grab a coffee, that's wonderful. And if you hung the phone up and sent them an email and said, boy, I'm really looking forward to visiting with you next Thursday or whatever date we said, hey, beforehand, I just thought I would get you a couple of these pieces here. I was recently, and here's a link to, hey, looking forward to seeing you then. Well, my contention is when people then can have that pre-frame that this person is more than just some salesperson, quote unquote, that they, not everybody is mentioned in the media, not everybody has these things. Now, when you walk in, you're coming in as a trusted advisor, as maybe an advocate, an educator in the industry, not as a salesperson. Can you speak to how some of that pre-framing and even psychology can work to make sure that appointment goes really well?
No, I so agree. In fact, what I would do and what I used to do is, let's say I have an appointment in 3 days with you at 9 in the morning. We'll use that as an example. Well, of course, I would immediately send you an email and say, I'm so excited to meet you. And between now and our time together, I'm going to spend quite a bit of time and effort researching to make sure I bring to the meeting things that will most benefit you and your company. So in a way, you have to obligate them with the effort you're putting forth. And then I think in today's world, you almost have to follow up maybe the day before. And you can also call if they have an assistant, and let's say Diane is the assistant. Diane, I just thought I'd let you know that I'm all set for tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, meeting with Mike. And boy, I've done some great preparation. I think he'll be thrilled with what we're going to bring to the table. So if you'll just make sure that he knows I've called and can't wait to see him tomorrow. You've got to follow up more than ever before today, because people are so busy, and I hate to say this, and it's not negative, it's kind of a truth that the one person they'll either eliminate, forget, or cancel is a salesperson. So we have to become better at follow-up to almost obligate them to make sure that they don't cancel or that they're there on time.
Yeah, I recently read an article that someone interviewed you on, and it was published in Inc., and one of the points that you made was be a follow-up specialist. And that goes for before the meeting and for after the meeting, because there's a whole series of events that should happen after you've had that nice, powerful meeting, without being too clingy, but there should be some nice points of interest and follow-up. And I would suspect that you would teach, from that meeting, you're learning and taking notes and making notes, and you get back to your car or office and you get that out of your brain and into some of those things you talked about. Well, then a few days later, maybe you send them an article. Hey, we mentioned such and such. I saw this out on entrepreneur.com. Thought you might like to see it. Hey, talk to you soon. Not a sell right away, but a give.
So right. I mean, I had a goal, and of course, this is something no one knew, but my goal was that at least 6 times a year, in one format, I'm contacting almost every person that I've met, every person I've visited with, every person that's in my computer. And, I might do, and of course, I tied a lot of my follow-up, which I just so believe in, into holidays. Like I would send out, most people wouldn't send a little note for 4th of July. Mm-hmm. But I used to send out a little note, we're so blessed to be in this wonderful country, and I want to just wish you a happy 4th of July with your family. And then, of course, I would send out Thanksgiving cards. I would try it. And then, of course, if with a client, if I knew their birthday, and I think the people listening, try when you're working with a client to let them know you love to keep in touch, and especially would love to let the children know that you're thinking of them and get the dates of their birthday. And I used to send birthday cards to the kids of my clients. And man, when a little 10-year-old gets a birthday card from the realtor, that means so much to the family. It's not that expensive, but it's something no one else does.
And I would add to that piece right there to make sure that it gets, rather than getting right to the 1-yard line and can't get it into the end zone, to make sure it comes off well. Meaning, if you did all of that and shot a e-card email to the parent's email address to say for Billy, it's not going to come off well. If you sent a handwritten card with Billy's name on it, and now that's in the mailbox, to open it up, and they knew that it wasn't the corporate card or the email. So those things can really land well when you've taken the time to do that. So if you had 400 to do every day, that's going to get hard. But if you had your core clients or strategic alliances, you're probably not doing more than 2 or 3 a week.
That's exactly right. And that was like, I had a computer, one of the first ones, by the way, and it would trigger the birth dates of the children. And by the way, some of your people listening need to also have the anniversary of the client's wedding date, because it's so important to do little things no one else does. And I used to have, of course, I knew my clients well. I'd get the date they were married on my information sheet. And boy, 3 days before the wedding, I would send the husband a little note. Dear Mike, I know you and Jane have been married for now this many years, and congratulations, and you got 3 beautiful days till you celebrate. I want to be a part of it by wishing you all the best. Well, I got calls, Mike, from guys that would be whispering. They'd be going, Tom, I can't thank you enough.
Right.
I forgot last year, baby. Thanks. So these are those little nuances. And, of course, everything's easy to do, but everything is easy not to do.
Yeah.
And so many people might listen to what we're saying and go, yeah, but that's a lot of work. Hell, the way to make a lot of financial gain is to do a lot of effort, build your momentum, become so important to your clients that they rely on you. And it takes not only the follow-up, but it takes that sincere belief in serving and not selling. Become a servant, and you'll love keeping in touch and following up.
So that's a really interesting point that you make, what you just said, which is make others feel important. So how do you make others feel important without coming off insincere or patronizing or cliche or something like that? Because you want someone to go, wow, that was impactful, not, oh, I see what you're doing.
Well, I guess I've been very fortunate to have a nice way with people all my life, not just in selling, but in communicating and so forth. So I didn't have any challenge, Mike, with establishing a rapport, getting them to realize that I'm here to serve them. Too many salespeople come across like a salesperson instead of someone there to serve. And, of course, I always started off right in the beginning by, letting them know, my job is to help you find the proper home for you and your family. And again, we may not be able to do that, but I'll do my very best. Well, see, that relieves pressure.
Yeah.
When I admit I may not be able to do it, but I'll do my best. Where most salespeople come across like, I'll do the best, no one else can do as good as I. Humility, which is something that, our friend Phil Taylor and I have talked about a lot, humbleness is so important in selling. And I don't care if you make millions of dollars a year, you don't want to come across with a huge ego. Humble yourself to be a servant.
Yeah. And that leads me into my next question, which is, I understand you teach about 4 foundational areas of success, one of which is the spiritual. So can you speak about how important that is? And humility ties right in with that spiritual focus.
Well, I love this subject, Mike, and it's not talked about enough in our world today, which needs more of it. But yes, I do teach, first of all, financial independence, how to become, financially independent in your golden years. Then, of course, emotional stability, how to handle crisis, overcome failure. And then, of course, physical fitness, how to have a long, healthy life. And then, of course, spiritual fulfillment, which is so very, very important. And, I'm a businessman, and I've been blessed to be very successful. But I am finding that more and more people who attain this pinnacle of success financially look around and go, all right, what's really important? And in my life, I have found having a wonderful relationship with God through his son Jesus has been a foundation that has been so beautiful. And what's amazing as I travel the world, which I do, my audiences, I briefly, touch it, and you'd be amazed how many people today, with the crisis and all the stuff in our world going on, they want someone to express their belief in a spiritual fulfillment opportunity. So it's exciting. And Phil and I, of course, share that, and I know you do as well. And I just hope that people realize, or listening, realize that, all the money in the world won't make you happy. Now, you need to find out that for yourself. But then you got to realize that once you do that, do soul searching for, as, we're going to spend such a short vapor of time here on this planet. Make sure you make some plans for eternity.
Yeah,
because that's a long time.
You're exactly right, and I think it's so important to have that set, because that becomes your compass, and it becomes the place that is pointing you to. And no matter what background someone comes from, you can take a biblical spiritual principle for success that was written about 2,000 plus years ago, and it is still relevant for today. So not only do you need to make sure your relationship is right and your eternity is set, those things are in the future, but what you can pull from that right now will benefit you today. And it is not a magic pill. It's not a magic bullet or a formula that once I do this, I get this, so here's my spiritual formula for success and bring on the money. That's not the way it works, because because you really might even run into a few roadblocks along the way once that is set.
Well, and I have lived with Matthew 6:33, which is seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all other things will come to you. In a way, that's what I paraphrased it. But, I really believe that that's got to be foundational, and I'm so thrilled whenever I have someone interview me that is willing and wants to say, hey, let's wrap up talking about what's most important to you, and when it comes to the spiritual fulfillment, that's a highlight in my life.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, and I think we could probably have 10 more interviews on just that one topic, and I know you were part of Phil's project as well, so I think that's a really, really powerful thing. So in wrapping up, there is really no more important thing that we could have covered within that, so I want to thank you for your time. And what is the best way that people can learn more about your trainings and your books and everything that you've done over your 40-plus year career in success?
Well, I know it doesn't sound long.
It sounds like about 4 weeks to you.
If they go to tomhopkins.com, my website, they'll push all the information pages on product and seminars and what cities I'm going to be in. And so just tomhopkins.com, and they'll see my smiling 19-year-old picture.
Yep, simple enough. That's awesome. Well, Tom, thank you so much for your time today. It's a blessing to be able to speak with you, and I wish you all the success here in your next upcoming events.
Thank you, Mike, for a wonderful time. All the best to you that were listening. God bless. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.